All right, we got this thing built. This is looking awesome. Holds the batteries, no problem, no flexing at all. That brace in the middle is pretty much the ticket there. So I want to move these two batteries right here up into my console, and as you can see, there is not a lot of space up here. What I need to do is build a shelf. I'm gonna go ahead and I need to move all these wires. I'll probably pull them out of here, get them to the side, and I want to build a shelf that is like 5 inches off the ground. That way this steering cable and my shift and throttle cables here won't necessarily be in the way. First thing I need to do is this backing plate back here, that thing right there. I need to go ahead and mount that, and then I want to put both of the speakers in, so that way we can get our measurements to build the shelf. And what I'm going to build the shelf out of is going to be crucially important if you work on your own boat or you do any kind of DIY stuff, because it's going to be way cheaper than building it out of fiberglass or going and buying starboard. So let me show you what that stuff is when we get all of our measurements. Okay, so we got our piece on the back there. We got our two speakers in here. So now we kind of see how much space we have available in this console now. It is very tight, obviously. So looking at our measurements, this is the width of the trolling motor battery. That's 10 1/4. And then this is the starting battery tray, which is 13 1/2. So those two together, because we're gonna put the starting battery like this and the trolling motor battery like this, that's what we would like to do. But the problem is that 10 1/4 and 13 1/2 is 23 3/4, which between our two speakers here we only have 22 and just under a half. So now we have a legitimate issue as far as where we are going to be able to stick these batteries. With this cable and the way this cable is, this kind of has to go like, I wonder if I stick this cable like this, if I could maybe stick my other battery right here, but then it can only stick up so far. So we've got 13, and yeah, this is a concern for sure. Now how much do we have in between this? I mean, that's too much there too. They won't even fit sideways. Like, we can't even stack them up in here. Well, maybe actually if I go sideways and sideways, but that's going to cover this up pretty significantly. There will be literally no access to this, which is a legitimate concern of mine. These cables aren't really a concern because they can go like this and they're out of the way, so those are not a problem. We've got plenty of space here, but covering up this rigging, I can move most of it like that, so I could build something over the top of that. Now, if we put them side by side like this, we would need 10 1/4 and 8 1/2, which is, that gives us 18 3/4. So 18 3/4, and we've got 22 1/2. So if we've got 22 1/2 between the speakers, this cable I could put all the way to like that, so that's not really a concern. But getting to this is ultimately my concern, is there's no access to this. So both of the batteries will have to come out in order to get to this tray. So both of the trays are 13 1/2, which that's kind of a good thing. So 13 1/2 for both of those. So 13 1/2 comes out to here. Like, no matter what, 13 1/2 is all the way to here. So we are 2 3/4. So there's 2 inches and 3/4 to get into here. So like, there's, you know, I guess that would be access. The problem then that we have is we need a backing plate on this, which is a 1/2 inch. So that's going to push us out to 14, which only gives us 2 1/4. So no matter what, there's going to be very minimal space to get to this pie hole cover, and the batteries will have to come out in order to get to it. But as far as being able to place both of the batteries here, that's what it's going to be. So I need 14 inches, and 14 inches by 22.5 is pretty much what I have to build the top to. So our measurements for the tray that we're going to build, I'm going to do 19 inches by 14 inches, and then once we get that, then we'll go ahead and figure out how to build the legs. Now what we're going to build this out of is going to be PVC board. It's a cheaper product that you can get. You can get it from a lot of different places. Pretty much every Home Depot and Lowe's and hardware stores, stuff like that, they will all carry it. It is way cheaper than Starboard. But the thing about it is, I'll make a video about acrylic and Starboard and PVC board and the differences. Main thing about PVC board, it is not near as durable as HPDE, which is what Starboard is. That's the material that Starboard is. We're gonna go get some of that PVC board. I'll show you what it looks like and where to get it at Home Depot and the prices. It's the piece that we're gonna get a pre-cut piece because I don't need a full sheet. Normally what I would do is buy a 4x8 sheet and then just cut what I need out of it and have the rest saved for later, but I'm limited on space right now, so I'm not gonna get a 4x8 sheet. I'm just gonna get a 2x4 sheet, so that way I can cut what I need out of it. And then we're also going to be making a backing plate for our electronics to be mounted to. The stuff is super durable, so it's really good for using inside of a console or using inside of a hatch or in a bilge or something like that, because it's way better than wood, but it's not as expensive as Starboard, but you can use it basically identically as you would use Starboard, just at a much cheaper rate. And also it's just, yeah, it's much cheaper and much easily accessible than Starboard is, or a piece of acrylic, which would be way more expensive to be using for a backing plate. So if you're sticking something down in a hole, perfect for doing that. Mounting water separator brackets, stuff like that, this stuff is perfect for that. So here is our sheet. Now what we need to do is go ahead and measure it out. So basically this sheet is going to be 24 inches by 4 feet. So I just need to carve out a 19 inch by 14 piece. This is just under 24 inches, so got about 23 7/8. So I'm going to cut out just a 14 inch piece. So once I slice down 14 inches, then I'm going to go ahead and slice off the other section. That way I can use that to chop up for making the legs. And then I've got the rest of the sheet to make a battery box that I want to make to put the Rig Pros in that we're going to get from New Wire Marine, as well as backing plate for our charger here. This is the charger that we need to mount to the wall for our trolling motor battery, as well as all of those junction boxes and all of the bus bars for our ground cables and all of our wiring. So let me go ahead and cut out a 14 inch piece off the top, and then I'll make it 19 inches. Then we'll go put it in the boat and see how we're going to make the legs. When it comes to working with PVC and Starboard and stuff like that, I still like to put tape on my saw, even though this is still a pretty clean saw as far as the bottom half goes. It's not all scratched up, messed up, but putting this on here, when you run it through here, even if you're on a table saw, something like that, making sure, because this stuff is super soft, it'll scratch very easily, so making sure we get a clean line and don't scratch up the surfaces, even though this is going underneath battery, so it really doesn't matter. But that's just a good tip for working with this stuff. All right, so this is going to work perfect. Got all of our measurements right back here. That's gonna also work perfectly. So our depth and everything's good. Now let me go ahead, because this one's going to go on the opposite side. Let me go ahead and take this out there and figure out our feet. I think I know what I'm going to do, though. It's going to be kind of wasteful, but not really that wasteful, because we want this thing to be stuck down. So if this is sitting in the console like this, our pie hole cover is going to be here, and I know that pie hole cover is 5 3/8 from the end. So if I'm 5 3/8 into here, I might just make one piece. I might just cut like a 5 3/8 inch strip out that'll go all the way across the back like this. Then I want this thing to be 5 inches tall, so I have like 14 inches here. So I got 14 inches there, which 4 divided by 3, if I make 4 inches, because this is a half, that's a half. If I want it to be 5, that gives me an inch. So I need 4-inch pieces for our legs, which means I could get all 3 legs out of this piece and just run one strip all the way across. That's 5 3/8 in, with a leg here, leg in the middle, and then a leg right here. And I'll probably take, these legs will be like this, and then the middle leg I'll probably make like this. That way it gives it the most stability in the middle, and this will be down the side. So we got, you know, stability there, and then in the middle, so that way the weight of the batteries are kind of taken care of. Up here in the front though, those legs are going to be the only thing that might be a problem, because if this, you know, if I have a piece like this, I can screw this straight to the deck with the legs screwed onto it, and then screw the top right down to it, so that way this thing isn't going anywhere. The weight of the batteries is going to be keeping the shelf down. It's not really going to be worried about, you know, bouncing around. You know, just a couple screws will keep this thing stuck down and moving around, and the weight of batteries will just keep it down. So I don't have any worry about that. So I might not even have to really screw the front legs down. We'll take a look at it once we get it in there, but I think if I do this in the middle, it might be enough to have this thing just be exactly like that. So let me go ahead and just cut out a 5 3/8 piece of this board, 5 3/8, and then I'll cut it down to 19 just like we have here, move it all the way across, and then put our legs on it. So that way that'll be done, and we'll take that out there and figure out how to do the front legs here in the front, because the pile covers here, the rigging is here. So this leg is kind of the only one that's going to be like a standalone leg that I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure out how to secure it so it doesn't snap off. This one right here, I could do something similar, like I could put a piece, you know, from here to here with a leg and a leg, and that will be enough stability there. But let me go ahead and make this back set of legs first. This is starting to look really good. I got the back half, or the bottom or back legs, put on there. That's real good. I'll just unscrew these screws up here in the top, and then that way we can just screw this down to the deck when we get in the boat. Now I need to go put this in the boat and figure out how to do these front legs. That's the only thing that we need to kind of figure out. Once we get those front legs on there, this thing is going to be pretty solid. So let's go put this in the boat and figure out these front legs. All right, this is definitely super tight like I was saying, you got like no access to get down to this. I mean, you could slide your hand in there, but that's definitely a pain to get down there, but nothing else we can really do. I want to kind of center these on these speakers, so I got 1 3/4 there, and we got 1 3/4 there, so this is pretty well centered. So at 4 1/2, I might just make this 4 1/2 where that cover is going to go out. So that's about where our pie cover starts. I might just make this 4 1/4 just to be safe, give me a little bit of room there. So we got roughly 4 1/4, and then until we hit this can kind of move. I mean, I can move that around a little bit. 5 1/2, I'll do 5 1/2 just to make it easy. So 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. That'll do that leg, so that way we'll have supports. We'll have a support here, and we'll have a support here. Now that only leaves us with figuring out this corner right here, which there's like nothing there. So I mean, I might just have to make like an L bracket. So just have this go down and then have one flat spot there that kind of sticks. That way I can kind of screw that there, which if I did that, that means we could realistically get roughly a 4-inch piece. So if I just make a 4-inch, and then that gives us, if I gave it 2 inches, that'd be enough to screw to it, screw down there. Okay, let's go make our brackets. And there we go. This is outstanding. I mean, the middle's a little bit flexible, but I mean, you know, that leg right there is also a little bit, you know, questionable. I think once the batteries are on here and this thing is bolted down, though, there won't be any kind of problem, especially because the bigger battery is going to be over here and the lighter battery is over here. So I don't think we're going to have any problem there. Now, once this thing's bolted down, this is rock solid. I mean, if I wanted to put any more bracing in there, I could put something right here, but I just don't think that's really necessary. Let me go ahead and stick the batteries on here, see how they do. And also, because it's so tight in there, these corners, this is all sharp. I need to get rid of these edges, which is super simple. All you need to do is take a razor blade and go like this, and you can get rid of that edge. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go around here, knock down all these sharp edges, so that way nothing in here will be cut by any of this. I can just take this knife and run it down there and smooth that off, just to make it so there's no sharp edges, so you don't cut anything, don't cut a wire, nothing like that. All right, we got this thing built. This is looking awesome. This is definitely the front, holds the batteries, no problem, no flexing at all. that brace in the middle is pretty much the ticket there. Now, you know, this might not seem like a big deal knocking these corners down, but I went ahead and I went all the way around it, knocking it down, because a wire, and then also when you get to that hatch, remember, you're gonna stick your hand like this and you're gonna be rubbing. So if you're putting pressure on there like that and really like cutting, if you didn't do that, I mean, it would slice up my hand, but no problem there. So now I can get in there and mess with stuff if I need to, but also wires. I didn't want any of the wires that are going to be touching this, especially coming out of this rigging tube over here. So when the wires come out of this rigging tube, if any, I'm gonna have to feed some that way in order to get them to the other side, and also my cables for the shift and the throttle. So we just didn't want any sharp edges for any of those to be rubbing on and potentially having a problem later. The battery tray, this kind of has like a little bit of an overlap. This actually, look at that. I could probably even tighten these up a little bit more, because this battery tray will actually fit over that leg of that one, but I don't really want to do that. I'd rather have access to both screws and you know, get this over to the side anyway. So that's about like that. I might cheat this over a little bit, a little less, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch on this side, 1/4 inch space on this side. Not sure how I want to bolt these down just yet. Obviously I'm just going to do self tappers, not a problem there. I'm not through bolting them or anything like that, just self tappers all the way through. I'm going to do ones that aren't sticking, you know, too far out from underneath here, because again, wire stuff like that, I don't want anything to be cutting there. But this tray looks outstanding. Let me go put it in the boat and make sure it works, and then also I'll screw holes through here, and then I'll put some holes in that one, and then in the back one as well, to seal this to the deck, to keep it in place as we, you know, before we install these batteries. Now we can really see what we're looking like. This looks absolutely outstanding. Love this box. So this is the PVC board that we made, and it looks absolutely outstanding in here. Batteries are perfectly in the spot. Now what I need to do is go ahead and figure out where I'm going to mount all of my stuff